Welcome back to Head Trip. My name is Chris Begley. I'm your host, and we have an exciting show. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. It's been an interesting week, anywhere from some Highlander announcements. Karen Gillian joining Highlander, which is pretty cool. You got Daphne Keane joining season whatever we're at, and Percy Jackson and the Olympians. What else? James Gunn talking about if anybody drops out of Superman, he's more than willing to recast the role, which I think is a good sign considering we've seen how that's kind of played out within a lot of different franchises, more specifically within Marvel and the MCU. And when we have someone that's either canceled or someone that's basically doesn't want to do the role anymore, they want to move on from it, they do that, and that's fine. We got some behind the scenes looks and a first trailer release for The Pit season 2 starring Noah Wyle. If you guys haven't checked that out, that's a fantastic series. Really, really, really good medical drama. And it only makes sense that Noah Wyle is at the head of it, coming off of what was he in? He's not in the ER, but he's in like one of those clinics. So it slips my mind. But season 1 was fantastic. The fact that it was so good and there was so many episodes, we really lucked out on that. And I can't imagine we're going to get anything less from season 2. I know that it's going to take place during 4th of July. I know that the one doctor that had the drug problem is going to be back. I know the one nurse, like that's the day he returns. I know that one nurse that said she was going to retire, that head nurse or whatever. She's back too. So obviously she didn't. Noah Wile's back, of course. Really, really good series. If you haven't checked out season 1, I highly recommend that you do so. And speaking about the Superman thing, James Gunn was talking about, I forget what it was, but this is via Nick Vile. And James Gunn was saying that he's planning on this Superman saga. In his head right now spans about 4 films. And I don't know if they're necessarily going to be Superman specific through and through. But it'll revolve around him and his aura and all of that. And the story that they're looking to tell with this character, along with the expanding universe that they're creating here. So, other than that, yeah, we're going to talk about some fun stuff today. We got we're going to talk about Dexter and Showtime's plans for Dexter moving forward. We're going to talk about the new trailer release for Daniel Day-Lewis's new film Anemone, which looks really, really good. I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis is just untouchable. We're going to talk about some drama and some information regarding Avengers Doomsday. But before we get into that, something that we have to talk about, no ifs, ands, or buts, and we're going to jump right into it. Peacemaker season 2 has arrived. Episode 1. It released last night at 8 p.m., depending on, or something like that, depending on where you're at, maybe even 9. Episode 1 titled The Ties That Grind. And this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion, so keep that in mind. But if you had the opportunity to tune in to season 2 so far, episode 1 of Peacemaker, I think you have nothing but to be happy about. I think this was so let's go back a little bit. Obviously, season 1 dealt with a lot of the aftermath of the Suicide Squad and John Cena's Peacemaker, kind of like finding his place in this bigger universe. And he wants to be a hero so bad, but obviously he has his past and so many terrible things that he's done. I mean, if you've seen the Suicide Squad, which if you're watching this, I assume you have, but some of the things that he's done that he's really trying to reconcile with Christopher Smith. And along the season, we have this ragtag group of people. We've got Amelia Harcourt, played by Jennifer Holland, Danielle Brooks's Leota Abadayo, Freddie Stroma, who plays Adrian Chase, aka Vigilante. Steve Agee is back as his John Economos role. Who else do we have? Who plays I can't think of his name, the dad. It's off the top of my head. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, season 1 obviously dealt with the butterfly situation, the invasion, the butterfly and kind of alien invasion that was going on and all of that. And it really just kind of like cemented Peacemaker's place in what he wants to become and his identity. And he wants to be a hero. He doesn't want to be a villain. He doesn't want people to have that idea of him, because he's very much aware that the rest of the world looks at him as kind of like a loser, even like the superheroes and all those people. They look at him like a loser. They look at him like he's like a douchebag. and they look at him just like he's just like not the guy. I think we all know. I'm sure a lot of ourselves can feel that, and things that we've done, and we just feel like a little inadequate, and our past, and our troubles and what we've done kind of follows through life, whether they're brought up to us or they're just always in the back of our mind. But that's no different from these characters, and so he's really trying to navigate, his life and his future. And he had a little bit of a taste of being a hero, even though in the Suicide Squad. But things didn't go as planned because, of course, we know with Peacemaker, peace at any cost, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care how many people he has to kill to get peace. That's what he's willing to do. So season 2 leads off not too far. It seems not too far from where season 1 ended. Peacemaker is still trying to find his way. People are still not taking him seriously. He's going to kind of like these superhero, like the Justice Gang interviews because he wants to be a part of that, and he's just trying to find his way, find any way that he can to be a hero. Freddie Stroma's just been doing his thing, or Freddie Stroma, Vigilante's doing his thing, flying on the radar. He's like a cook or something like that. No like team affiliations or anything like that. Jennifer Holland, her Amelia Harcourt, she's having a rough time, just like Peacemaker too. She's trying to figure out her place in this world, and with Adebayo's outing of Amanda Waller, being behind, the Suicide Squad and this butterfly invasion, and the lives it took and all that, with her outing her. Waller's very clearly behind the scenes. We don't see Viola Davis's character, but we can definitely feel the aftermath and the ongoings of what's coming of that. And so Harcourt's been essentially blacklisted. She's interviewing and going for these government jobs, and she's just striking out, not getting them. This past invasion and all that, and the outing is definitely coming back to haunt her. Economos, he has a bit more, I think, of a backstory, a relationship with Waller, so he's still there. I'm sure in some kind of way that they're kind of using him against his friends. But he's still there. He's kind of keeping an eye now on Peacemaker, and he can't really help but want to be involved and want to be there for him. And yeah, so we're all in really, really different places. And, so this season's going to really deal with, introducing not only just its story, but really transitioning this character and these characters and this story into the greater DCU. And James Gunn has already said that you don't necessarily have to take everything that's season 1 as canon. Everything was canon for the world as it existed at that time. But now that it's joined this greater DCU universe, he's gone to say that everything that you see in this season, if it's shown, if it's talked about, or anything like that, that becomes canon. If it's not, you can just essentially assume that it's not until it gets brought up. But I really, really, really liked this first episode. I think it's a great way to kickstart this new season and kickstart its transition into the greater DCU. It starts off with pretty quickly. We see immediately we're right with Peacemaker and Begley, and Eagly's waking him up, and because there's some kind of like interference he's feeling, or I don't really necessarily know. It's not really explained. I don't think how Begley happens to know the path or what's going on with this door or so, or maybe it's not the right Begley. I don't even know if we haven't addressed that yet. Maybe it's the wrong Begley. Maybe we have a different Begley. Maybe the same thing that happened to Peacemaker at the end of this episode is the same thing that happened to one of the other Begley. Maybe we have two different, and they're gonna have to learn to bond. I don't know. That would be kind of heartbreaking. As Peacemaker finally gets this emotional hug that he got from Begley in season 1, and now he has a different Begley. I think that'd be probably a pretty interesting route to go. But anyway, Peacemaker, that pocket universe, I forget what it's called, but that his dad built, that allows him to kind of go into this pocket universe. He sees this other door leading to a different universe, and he goes in, and lo and behold, his dad is there. His dad is still alive, and his dad is kind, and his brother's there. We see a little bit later, his brother is there. His brother is still alive, and Peacemaker's at a loss for words. He doesn't know how to handle himself in this situation, and we get a lot of these, this really nice and wholesome fun moment of the three of them, like kind of like sitting around, like sort of like an office, I don't know why I keep on wanting to say something, that library kind of situation. And it's kind of like that nice little like library fireplace, having a drink kind of like vibe. And they're just cracking jokes and they're just talking about their past in a really loving family way. And you could tell that, it's really hitting Chris Smith. I guess I'll refer to him as that too. But it's really hitting him in the feels because this is all he's wanted in his life, is somewhere where he belongs. Obviously his dad has been the way he is, and he knows that his dad is the way he is. And he lost his brother when he was younger. And we know the backstory behind that, how that happened earlier in his life. Um, so Peacemaker definitely has felt like he doesn't have a place to belong. He's always been used, as a weapon at this point, whether it's before the Suicide Squad or in the Suicide Squad or Peacemaker season 1. He's always been used as a weapon, not like brought in as a person to talk to and understand him and his goals, and really allowing him to have like a family, that revolves around him and he revolves around himself. So there's not a lot of dialogue on him. He's just kind of listening and going through it, and it's that you can definitely just, I gotta say, John Cena. I forget who it was that just came out with it, but they're talking about like the best wrestler turned actor, and they named Dave Bautista the best wrestler turned actor, and well deserved. I would agree, but at the same token, what John Cena has done in the last few years, with the roles that he's taken and how much he's put into himself. Obviously, this Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad, and there's the comedy Ricky Stanicky, and there's a lot of projects that he's taken part in, and he's done really good. He's just progressed and he's progressed, and he's getting to the point to where like you can really feel and read the emotions on his face. There's some actors like Tom Hardy where they could stay silent and you could just watch their face and you can understand how they feel and what they're thinking. And John Cena's doing a fantastic job. And James Gunn, he did an interview recently. I forget with who, but he's talking about how John Cena has really stepped it up. And one of his favorite scenes that he's filmed is later in this season. I think it's like episode 6 or something like that. It's like a discussion between him and Amelia Harcourt. And he says it's one of my favorite scenes I've ever filmed, and it's some of the best acting I've ever seen John Cena do. And he really takes it up a notch. I'm really excited to get there. And I can't remember if it's episode 5, 6, 7. It's somewhere around there, but really looking forward to it. Amelia Harcourt, like I said, she's having a rough time, and we get this really cool, badass bar scene where she just goes, and you realize at the end of it that she's gone to pick a fight. She's not just going to have a drink or a little bit of steam off. She goes and she's looking for a fight, and we get this really badass scene where someone, this other guy's kind of like trying to like catcall her and do all that, and she's not having it, and she just kicks his entire bar's ass, and then in turn gets her ass kicked and thrown out of the bar. And we leave that scene with a little bit of a smile, and that's where we're like, okay, this is what she's been behind. Like I said, Economos has been kind of keeping an eye on Peacemaker and doing his thing. We see a little conversation between him and Vigilante. Vigilante again is like working like as a cook or something like that. And we have this like nice little back and forth. And then we realize these guys have been in touch. They talk like almost every day. And Economos, I think Economos has gone from like someone who just can't stand these people, and all he wants to do is his work, and he just kind of wants to be in his own thing. And so now he cares about people. Like he doesn't want to rat out Peacemaker, and he doesn't want to. He talks to Vigilante every day, and he goes to Adebayo for advice. And I just really, really like that this group has become like a tight knit, like little family. It's become a little family that, whether they like to admit it or not, they look out for each other, and I absolutely love that. We had the addition of David Denman. I'm sorry, I apologize. I meant to put this up while we're talking about, but we had the addition of David Denman as a Keith Smith. A lot of you will recognize him from a lot of stuff, maybe primarily from The Office, where he plays Pam's ex. But he does a great role here. He does a great role of really just playing that calm, like not stoic, but that sincere kind of older brother. And I can't remember if he's supposed to be older or younger, but he definitely lays over a level of comfort and warmth that Peacemaker just immediately receives, and you can tell he just wants to kind of blanket himself in this peace and this love that his dad and his brother are showing. So yeah, all in all, this episode, beginning of the season, this episode was really, really, really good. Obviously, towards the end of it, we get like a nice little battle and a fight between the two, and it's once the other Peacemaker kind of catches our Peacemaker in his bedroom, kind of saying like, oh well, this is my life, this is my stuff, this is where I feel like I should belong. And then spoiler alert, Spoiler alert. Boom. Peacemaker's dead. There's this cool fight, and they're kind of going back for it. And there's a moment where we'll say Peacemaker Prime, almost dies. But he's able to pull a last minute situation and a last minute attack, and it just sends, substitute Peacemaker up into the ceiling with a gaping hole in his stomach, and that's that. And we get a good idea of where this is going to kind of lead the rest of the season. Plus with the, there's a post credits scene, and James Gunn has gone on to say that you can expect post credit scenes for every single episode of this season, which I think is really cool. One thing I will state that I thought was interesting was that finally we get retconned. We have a better idea of how they're going to go about this Peacemaker transition into the DCU. And we know obviously in the original season it ended with Peacemaker carrying Harcourt out, I think. And we see Superman, Aquaman, the Flash, and Wonder Woman, and now they've gone and substituted that for Mr. Terrific, who doesn't get any lines, Superman, that doesn't get any lines, Supergirl, which actually kind of surprised me. I was surprised that they included her, because they could have easily just went the 4, right? They could have easily just went the 4, but they went all 5. And so we got Supergirl, but then we got Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, and we got I can't off the top of my head, but Hawkgirl. So we got Hawkgirl as well. So Mr. Terrific, Superman, Supergirl, Green Lantern, and Hawkgirl. And only Green Lantern and Hawkgirl have lines. But I was definitely surprised at the inclusion of Supergirl, because obviously this takes place a while ago from where we're starting season 2. And there's definitely no inclination that Supergirl or Superman were technically part of this group at that time. I don't know. It's a little confusing, but they've gone on to retcon it. And so this is kind of like how we're to believe that this is how it leads off. And this is kind of goes in line with James Gunn's, like, if you see it and you hear it, it becomes canon. But yeah, so season 2, episode 1, Peacemaker, I loved it. I'm excited for where the rest of the season goes. And I'm really loving the world building being done with the DCU and with what James Gunn is doing. And I'm really looking forward to further development. Obviously we have Supergirl, which, the grapevine we're hearing is really, really good. We've got Clayface. We've got the Lanterns series with Aaron Pierre and Kyle Chandler. So that looks really, really good too. I'm really excited. I got to be honest, right now, aside from the Avengers stuff, and obviously that's pretty much all that there is right now in terms of the Marvel side of things, except for like Spider-Man and all that. But I think this is like one of those few periods of time where I'm genuinely more excited with what the DCU is going to do compared to what Marvel is currently doing. Obviously, Marvel has a weird kind of downward slope going. And DCU is kind of on the up and up, and they're putting out really good content so far. Everything from the Christopher Reeves doc to Creature Commandos to Superman to Peacemaker. They're hitting the nail on the head every shot that they get. And that makes me really excited. And I can only assume with the creators that they have attached to everything and what we know is coming out, Clayface being kind of a more body horror type of film, that's different. It's excited. And we know that every story and all these characters are going to sort of exist in their own pocket with all the world themes. Like Metropolis is going to feel very different than Gotham City, even though that they're in the same universe. And we can assume the same for Star City and all that. But this was fun. Obviously, we didn't get to talk about everything we wanted to talk about. We got, like I said, some information from his childhood. White Rabbit appears, her powers are to, to duplicate herself, but, we see her leaving the superheroes meeting, kind of crying. We see Maxwell Lord, show back up, in the interview scene with Green Lantern and Hawkgirl. This really funny, but also sad scene where they're interviewing Peacemaker, and he can hear everything that they're saying, and they're just talking shit to him nonstop. All this, not to him, but about him to each other, and they don't realize he can hear everything, and he's having these really sincere opinions and thoughts and the ways he's expressing himself. But it hurts, and obviously everybody that they've interviewed, they've been able to hear, and they didn't realize that. But Sean Gunn is back, returning his role as Maxwell Lord, which is kind of cool. We get some mention of Lex Luthor and the dimensional rift that happened in Metropolis. Michael Ian Black's Clevis Thornway appears, from the Sphere news that we saw Peacemaker two other Peacemaker show up in. We understand that there's some dialogue and some talk about some metahumans breaking out, which we can assume that probably has something to do with the creature commandos. And yeah, lots of other Easter eggs. I know that there's gonna be a lot of other people like out there like New Rock Stars and all of those that kind of break those down. But it's definitely fun to go through. There's a lot of cool stuff on there, so I highly recommend it. Peacemaker season 2, episode 1. It's out. Check it out if you haven't. That's that. So moving on from Peacemaker, some news in the world of Dexter. So this comes to us from Variety, and they have announced today that Peacemaker Dexter New Blood has been canceled, much to my unhappiness. I can't think of the word, but much to my unhappiness, we'll say. Yeah, Dexter New Blood has been canceled. Even though back in April it was technically renewed for a second season, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a second season is going to happen. That just means that they have the intent of doing it. But they did announce though that they are looking at a potential season 2 for Dexter Resurrection, the follow-up to the original Dexter series, which I'm sorry, not New Blood. I'm getting that all wrong. Dexter Original Sin, I'm sorry, is canceled. And yeah, obviously they're talking about getting sequel seasons for Dexter Resurrection and Dexter New Blood, both in which, all of which Michael C. Hall appears in. Obviously, he's doing more of the inner dialogue for Dexter season or all over the place. Dexter Original Sin. He's the inner voice. And, this is unfortunate. This is kind of a bummer because I have really liked so far everything that they've done with this. Let's remove that and we'll add this to it. With what they've done. So I really like everything that they've done with the Dexter universe right now. Obviously like this second, the last seasons, everyone wasn't happy about, but Dexter Original Sin, Dexter I haven't watched Resurrection yet. Don't hate me. But New Blood is also really good. But this is a bummer. I mean, so they go on to say, the first season debuted July 11th. And the finale premiered September 5th. So Original Sin comes not long after the closing of after the Skydance Paramount merger. So that happened just recently. And not everybody is technically happy about this. But the show comes as Showtime's gradual decline has, continued unabated for years. So yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that Showtime has definitely kind of nosedived in terms, it used to be like I think it even says in here, it used to be like an HBO type of channel. They were known for their top tier content, and now they only have The Chi, The Agency, Yellow Jackets, and whatever versions of Dexter, that they're putting out. So Dexter Original Sin was set in 1991 and served as the original story of Dexter Morgan, with Patrick Gibson playing the young version of the iconic killer of killers, which I have to say, the dude hit the nail on the head when it comes to playing Dexter. I mean, his mannerisms, the way that his cadence and his voice and the way that he talks, I was so impressed with the way that he took on this role that is what kind of bums me out, because I was like, my thought is we have someone perfect to take on this. And season 1 was fantastic. I'm not sure how well received, in terms of like ratings it was. But I thought it was really good. And everybody I talked to had the same thing. They thought it was really good. They thought the characters were really good. I mean, you had, Molly Brown, which I think was Dexter's sister, plays Dexter's sister, which she did a fantastic. I can't remember who some of these people played. But Molly Brown, Christina Milian, Christian Slater was in there as, a younger version of Harry. Younger version of Harry, which he actually ripped to. James Martinez, if I remember correctly, he plays Bautista, which I'm not entirely sure that you could get an actor to look and feel like an entirely other actor as much as this guy did. And I think that, let me just double check because I want to make sure. Yeah, James Martinez. So he played Detective Bautista, and he just absolutely ripped it. He did such a fantastic job. Um, Sarah Michelle Gellar, she showed up as in some guest episodes. I don't think she was in everything or not a lot of it, but she did a really good job too. Christina Milian, I'm sorry, she played LaGuerta. Molly Brown was Deborah Morgan. And obviously, we had Michael C. Hall back as the kind of doing the inner dialogue, and Patrick Dempsey as Captain Spencer. But so it's unfortunate, it's kind of a bummer that we are not going to we're not going to get a return. It's looking like for for Original Sin. It's unfortunate because I think that there's a lot of really good story, and maybe they will. I think maybe just as of right now, it's not renewed. But if you really liked New Blood like I did, then I think there's a lot of opportunity for them to continue telling a story. Now, it's kind of difficult because maybe they're going to go again. I haven't seen Resurrection, and it looks like that we're getting a sequel to Resurrection, a sequel season to that too. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. This is kind of like one of those weird situations where you have 3 active series of the same character in the same universe, and all of them can kind of beat up for grabs in terms of new seasons. Because as it is, and again, I haven't seen Resurrection, but they're talking about doing a sequel season, so I can only assume that the possibility is there. But as it is, the way all these different series, New Blood, Resurrection, Original Sin, it's so hard to remember all the sub names to these. They all leave off with the potential of sequel seasons. And as far as we knew, all of them were looking to get those. Now, New Blood, the announcement of a possible sequel season is just coming out, is just now. That's fresh. The sequel season for Resurrection, that's fresh. And we haven't had much talk on that. And Original Sin was originally, like we said, it was originally renewed for a second season, but it looks like that's unfortunately not happening now. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys are Dexter fans, if this kind of like piques your interest at all. Obviously, we're gonna get more Dexter, and if it's not one of these, under one of these banners, whether it's New Blood or Resurrection or Original Sin, maybe it'll have a different tagline, maybe a new sub name. It'll be interesting to see what they do with New Blood. I wonder if they're gonna kind of maybe, I want to say pivot back to Harrison, but I guess again, I haven't seen Resurrection yet, so maybe they're gonna tell some kind of other different story. I don't know, but we'll see. I'm excited for that regardless, but out of our control. Out of our control. So that brings us to another big thing worth discussing, which is, not that, but we are going to talk about that. Avengers Doomsday. Is there drama on the Avengers Doomsday set? So, according to a lot of sources, over the last week or the last few days that we're at least hearing about this, there's been a lot of clashing of egos, it almost seems like, on the set of Avengers Doomsday. And there's no word exactly on what this is, what's going on. So, but tensions are definitely running high. So a lot of this has come from film insider John Roca, and he's the one who previously announced that, Hulk and the Punisher were going to have roles in Spider-Man Brand New Day. So, maybe take this with a grain of salt, but we do know that he's on the inside. And speaking to the Christian Harloff podcast, he said, they are 2 pretty big actors. And he's talking about Robert Downey Jr. and Ryan Reynolds. And they're 2 pretty big actors. Apparently, a comment from what I understood was made in jest that was a bit too similar because these actors didn't know each other too well. It crossed a line. One of the actors got really upset about it, confronted the other actor. It was said on set that caused a big rift. 2 very outspoken actors went at each other. One of the actors, Marvel, said, "We'll shoot your scene separately or without the other actor in it, or we'll figure it out in some other way." Now, like I said, I've seen reports go that this has been, between Robert Downey Jr. and Ryan Reynolds. I've seen reports that this is between Robert Downey Jr. and Pedro Pascal over who's the smartest man in the universe, and maybe they both have different expectations. And I also saw another rumor that it's not necessarily what everybody thinks it is. But in reality, the situation was that they had a body double and a face double on set, and that Robert Downey Jr. would stand outside of the scenes reading his lines. And apparently, after a couple of weeks of doing this, he said, "This isn't working. I want to shoot the whole thing with me in the suit." Um, the dysfunction I've heard on set, this is from another source, on set is second only to that of the Fast and Furious movies. I mean, we mentioned behind the scenes incident earlier this year that I don't want to go into detail about. Someone probably made it more dramatic. I think there's a lot of testosterone and a lot of ego on that set, which, it makes sense. I mean, you look at Infinity War, which was massive. Look at Endgame, which was massive. Now you look at who's already announced for Doomsday, and apparently the rumor is, the rumor that I'm hearing is August 27th, is possibly the day that we're going to get the second batch of Avengers Doomsday announcements, casting announcements. So take that with a grain of salt. That's still to be seen, but a lot of actors, a lot of big, big, big names. And so that means a lot of ego. Not everybody has ego, obviously. But very clearly, some do. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, you know, because we don't typically get news like this when it comes to, the Marvel universe and filming and all that. We've heard that like Brie Larson was difficult to work with which everybody pretty much everyone's denied that. And no one ever really says anything bad about her. So like I find that hard to believe, but for the most part, we don't really get any bad updates or bad news from these sets in regards to like the characters and the actors interacting with themselves. So this is relatively new. One thing that I did hear was that like, one of the actors, Marvel, was, they're taking it very seriously, and they really want their actors to be comfortable. And so another rumor that I saw was that, they were offering, millions of dollars for these characters to shoot their scenes separately. So that there's just not this drama on the set, which it kind of goes towards like their dedication to providing a safe set. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do. I mean, it's still that to be seen, and this could be all rumor, and this could all also not be true. But it's going around. Everybody's talking about it. I figure, it doesn't hurt for us to talk about it. So yeah, we'll kind of see what goes on. I mean, this has been filming for a while, and apparently a lot of the actors have already filmed their scenes. So it seems like, I don't know if this is going to wrap sooner rather than later. I can't necessarily say that, but a lot of these actors have finished filming, aside from coming back for reshoots and all that, but we'll see how that goes. So maybe we'll get some more information about this down the road. I doubt it. I think that Marvel is probably already not that stoked that this amount of information regarding this incident is out already. They're probably going to try to go double time and try to kind of keep some of this other stuff in bay, and maybe even probably have some counseling and some other people on set to prevent any more of this happening. But that still stands to be seen. But one thing I did want to talk about was some story elements that were kind of hinted at. And one thing that I was seeing was a little bit of the story in terms of Doomsday and who he's going after. And it looks like, from what I've heard, again, take this with a grain of salt, that Doom is predominantly going to be after characters who have caused or been a part of incursions. Now, this includes Doctor Strange and Clea. This includes Spider-Man. This includes, Monica Rambeau, maybe even Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel. I don't know. We do know, obviously Monica Rambeau entered a different universe, with Beast's X-Men, and her, and who else was in the scene? Was it her mom? I can't remember. So yeah, those characters, a couple more. Venom is another one that I saw. So apparently he's going after those characters, and those are kind of those are the people that are in his sights, and it stands to be seen, sort of, well, whether or not that's true, and how that'll play into the greater story. Maybe they're going to be like, he wants them to be his acolytes or something like that, or maybe he's going to have them go get these people. I don't really know. But what it does take me back to is this art that came out not So only what was it, like a year ago or something like that? When maybe not a year, maybe I'm way off, not a year. It's probably like 5, 4, 6 months ago. But some of the artwork that came out regarding this, and people were psyched. People were stoked. Now we've seen a lot of the names of the people that were on that on in this artwork. We've seen some of their names. Now we see that, if you remember, Doctor Strange, um, as I said, he's hinted as someone who's, Doom is going to be after because of his part in the incursion. And we see him, in some of these, in some of this concept art as basically being some type of liaison or a henchman type of character to Doom. We also see Franklin Richards and what looks to be Sue Storm in the background. I'm not sure. And we got some, I know there's a lot of discussion of, what is his name? Taking over the Black Panther role. I can't remember the guy from F1. I cannot remember his name, and I'm sorry about that because he's so good. He's so fantastic in F1. But taking over the role of T'Challa, there's a lot of rumor of him, and he's included in the F1 in this concept art. And he's had interviews where they've brought that up, and he's a little bit more like, I can't talk about that. So we'll see. We hear She-Hulk. There's still the rumor that there's that She-Hulk is going to be returning for this. But I thought it was really interesting, given some of the information that's slowly starting to come out about Avengers Doomsday, some of the concept art and some of the rumors that we were already hearing, and we're starting to see those align a little bit. So we'll see kind of what comes up with that. I'll talk about it as it all comes up. If anything good, anything worth mentioning comes up, I'll absolutely talk about it. But put in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you guys think this beef and this drama is between? Do you guys think it's just fabricated? Maybe it's blown up to be more than it is. Who do you guys want in this second batch of announcement once it comes? I know the rumor for a secondary announcement has been going since the first announcement happened. So we've all been kind of waiting patiently, but it seems like, within the next week, we're going to be getting it. I mean, the 27th is what, a Friday? I think the 20th. I'm terrible. It's a Wednesday. So 27th is a Wednesday. It'll be in the middle of the week if that announcement comes, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if Marvel even hints at it. We'll see. We'll know, the days leading up. Obviously, they haven't released anything about it just yet. So I don't know. So that's Avengers Doomsday. The only other thing for us to talk about, and it's really, I saved it for last because I really wanted to spend as much time as we can on this topic. And that is that we finally have the first trailer for the new film starring Daniel Day-Lewis in Anemone. Now, as many of you know, Daniel Day-Lewis, he decided to retire from acting after he filmed The Phantom Thread, the Paul Wes Anderson movie, which, if you have not seen, is really good. I know from an optics standpoint, you wouldn't think that it's your cup of tea, but I promise you it's all of our cup of tea. And Daniel Day-Lewis, we could talk about him first. Daniel Day-Lewis is one of those actors. He's a once in a lifetime actor. I mean, I think my favorite movie of his, and maybe a lot of other people will probably second this as well, Gangs of New York, where he played a Butcher Bill Butcher Cutting. One of my favorite performances of all time. Obviously, so much acclaim over his appearance, and over the film There Will Be Blood in general. His take on Abraham Lincoln and Lincoln. Obviously, probably the biggest movie, in the zeitgeist of things, Last of the Mohicans. 9, he was also in The Boxer, the Crucible, for God's sake. I mean, this guy has just got the acting chops. We all know it. We all love him. It was a sad day when he decided to retire. But that day has officially come to an end because not that long ago, he boarded a new film to be made called Anemone. Now, this was to be written and directed by his son, Ronan Day-Lewis. And now, and since then, Daniel Day-Lewis has also had a writer's credit on it. So this is written by Daniel Day-Lewis and Ronan Day-Lewis, and it's also starring Sean Bean and Samantha Morton, which I can't think of a lot of the stuff Samantha Morton's been in. I know that a lot of people love her. I think she's been in a lot of British television. I primarily know her from The Walking Dead. That was my real first big introduction to her. Um, but she's in this film as well, like I said, with Sean Bean. And this movie looks really good. And I've already watched the trailer, but I figured, you know, let's get into it and let's watch it again together because, if you haven't seen it, why not? And if you have, then we're watching it for a second time. But I think that the return of Daniel Day-Lewis and how good this movie genuinely looks warrants us taking another view at it. So, um, let's go ahead and pop this on to the screen. Where do I have it at? I have it right here. All right. Okay, so this is remove. All right, so this is the trailer for Ronan Day-Lewis's feature film, first feature film, Anemone, starring the return of Daniel Day-Lewis.
All these years, the isolation.
I also like that right off the bat. Like with Daniel Day-Lewis, you're getting a character. Like even in his accent, you're like, okay.
This is my life. I've seen my share of lost souls, really.
Sometimes I can't tell if it's Daniel Day-Lewis or Sean Bean. Yeah, I mean, sorry, I don't want to keep pausing it. The thing with Daniel Day-Lewis is that in any given scene that he's leading, it's almost like you're watching like real footage. I mean, obviously that's being an actor. He's bringing these characters to life, but specifically actors like Daniel Day-Lewis, you feel like you're watching like filmed content. Like this is like something like this is not like a filmed movie. Like this is like a real event happening because it's just his mannerisms are so good. They're so good.
The Invisible Man, Ray Stalker.
Also, horror movie elements I didn't expect. I did not expect Daniel Day-Lewis's return to be in a horror style movie.
Off into the woods. What, 20 years?
Anemone. For those of you who didn't know, I wasn't sure myself. Anemone is a plant. There's a little bit more, to it. But I had to look it up.
Why did he leave us? The army teaches you to grin and bear.
Anemone is a genus of flowering plants in a buttercup family. Plants of the genus are commonly called windflowers. They are native to temperate subtropical regions. All regions except Australia. I'm sure there's probably like more like, what does it symbolize? It's to represent anticipation, good luck, and protection from evil. So take that with what you will. What you will.
The war with crime. We were the phantom soldiers.
Ray never spoke to me about what happened.
There's Samantha Morton.
I can't help you. Till he's told me what happened.
Got some secrets.
What do you want from me, brother? What do you want?
Soon, October 3rd. Isn't that crazy? Good boy. Ooh. Ooh. That was one of the things that kind of this is giving kind of like it's almost like obviously this stands to be seen what the story is and what we're getting, but right off the bat, this is kind of giving me like otherworldly Annihilation vibes where it's kind of like you have to be there to believe it.
You're going to hell, brother. Family reunion.
I mean, come on. How can you not be excited about that? That trailer, the Lost Art of a really good trailer just in general, but there are some trailers that have come out recently. Your weapons, obviously. What was the other one? What was the other one? Not Barbarian, but the other one that Homeboy from Weapons did. I can't think of the name of it. So good. Nicolas Cage. We all loved it. But I can't remember the name of it for some reason. Long Legs. Oh my God. Long Legs. The horror trailers just go so hard. I mean, there's just no denying that. But this one got me hooked, man. Again, the return of Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, that's not to be slept on. I mean, just in general, that is enough that should just drive butts into movie theaters. But this caught me by surprise. I wasn't, like I said, I was not expecting Daniel Day-Lewis to return to film acting. I definitely didn't expect his return to be in a sort of a horror style film. Now, obviously, this is kind of co-written and it's directed by his son, Ronan Day-Lewis. So that has a lot to do with his return. Now, obviously, why not? You're going to do anything. You're going to change your mind for, whatever your kid needs. That's just being a guardian. That's just being a parent. But what I really hope is this signals a possible return for Daniel Day-Lewis. Maybe he got a little bit of that taste. And he's willing to come back. I mean, how old is Daniel Day-Lewis? When was he born? He was born in 1957. So, I mean, let's see. 65, 75, 85, 95, bear with me. 05, 15, 25. He's 68 years old. Just the right age to become president, apparently. Kidding. But he's not, he's got a lot of, he's got a lot of gas. I mean, I can see the guy's moving well. We get a nice running scene from him. Like he's agile. He's capable. And I really, 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 I hope that this signals a return from Daniel Day-Lewis. Like I said, my favorite movie of his, Gangs of New York, what him and Leonardo DiCaprio did in that movie, even like, Liam Neeson and Brandon Gleeson, and it's such a good movie. If you haven't watched that, I was telling my partner Paige, I asked her, I was like, have you seen Gangs of New York? She's like, no. I was like, I immediately had put it, we're watching that movie. Maybe at some point of this weekend, we're watching that movie. But yeah, Anemone, this sounds really good. I'm hooked from the trailer. I was already hooked at the return of Daniel Day-Lewis. And I'm really hoping that this signals a return of Daniel Day-Lewis, because I think that he is someone that we are missing from just cinema. There's so much going out, and there's so many names that we're seeing very often. I would know everybody's talking about, Pedro Pascal's and everything. And don't get me wrong, I love Pedro Pascal. Put him in everything. Obviously not everything, but keep the films coming. I'll keep showing up for it. But there are a lot of actors that we miss. And Daniel Day-Lewis is one of those actors that I have I've really, really, really missed since Phantom Thread came out in 2017. It's been 8 years, since he retired. So we are definitely due. Now this comes out October 3rd, I believe is what it said, October 3rd, which is not too far away, which is something. And also that's another thing that I love is that, with all these, like, I guess it's primarily in like IPs, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel or DC, everybody's clamoring for this. So all these projects get announced years in advance. And I like the idea of, like, obviously this was announced years in advance, but I like the idea that we're getting a first look for a movie that comes out in less than this comes out in a month and a half, not even a month and a half. I love that. I'm all for it. Like I, in my opinion, normalize that. I'm tired of like getting these announcements years in advance, these casting, these stories, even trailers a year and a half in advance. And then it gets pushed out and changes and then reshoots and all this happens. And you finally see it and you're like, I know so much about this movie, about what's going on. I'm just going for the spectacle. Like, let's normalize releasing trailers like months tops before they come out. The fact that this comes, obviously like less than a month and a half is a little bit wild. I still like it. It's a little wild, but like, 2-3 months before it comes out, build that hype right at the gateway. Like Marvel, DC, people are going to show up. Don't trip. But yeah, we'll see. I'll be in theaters to see Anemone. I will definitely be in theaters to spend my money in the support for Daniel Lewis, if it means at all that he may or may not return. But put it in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys excited for Anemone? Are you guys ecstatic for Daniel Day-Lewis? What is your favorite Daniel Day-Lewis movie? Do you think that we need a return of Daniel Day-Lewis to cinema? I hope you agree, because I certainly think so. So that's going to do it. I think that'll do it for today's episode of Head Trip. We got to talk about a lot of fun stuff that I didn't want to bombard us too much. I know sometimes I have 7, 8 things that we're talking about, and we're kind of zooming through things, and the episode gets kind of long. And I definitely wanted to keep it, under an hour. I wanted to keep it under 45. We went a little bit over, but that's okay. That's no big deal. But had a really good time talking about everything with you guys. A lot of good information on Peacemaker. Let me know what you guys think. Put it in the comments. Avengers Doomsday. I love the way it's shaping up. There's drama on the set. What do you guys think about that? Put that in the comments. Are you excited for Anemone? Put that in the comments. What else did we talk about? I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you guys are following us on social media, please do me a favor. Whether you're on X, you're on Threads, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, it is all at Head Trip HQ. Now, this show, if you're catching on YouTube, this is the URL is Head Trip Show, and I think our Twitch is Head Trip Media. For some reason, that'll get changed eventually. But please do me a favor, go to those, follow them. I'll do my best to start following people back. If you're watching this and you made it this far, please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to grow this channel. I know it is difficult. I know that you guys have a lot of choices when it comes to who you guys are subscribing to and who you're not subscribing to. And I know people take it as religion with those subscribe buttons, but it would mean the world to me if you guys just hit that subscribe. And if you have the time, hit that notification. Know when these new videos, these new episodes pop out. If you're listening, or if you're not listening and you prefer to listen, all these episodes are also up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That'll do it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and hanging out and being part of the discussion. I love you guys. Until next time, take care of each other.